What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrub here, back again with another video. Hope you guys are having a great day. I know I am, and today I have a story time that is a little bit different than anything else I've told. It's actually from a subscriber who I guess is a camp counselor at a camp and managed to scare a group of kids around the fire so bad this summer that one of them literally crapped themselves. Now, I don't know about y'all, but that level of prankitude is pretty entertaining to me, so I figured we'd talk about it. Sorry that Caleb decided to join the story time, but before we get into it, be sure to press the like button or no joke, no scam. You're gonna get pranked like this. Let's go.
I'm getting quiet now. Laying low when you reach zone, piping down, making out.
Alright, so I personally never went to like a sleepaway summer camp, you know? At least not like the traditional ones, dude, where like you sit around the fire, you sing Kumbaya, you tell ghost stories. Nothing like that had just ever happened to me. That being said, I'm pretty familiar with the concept just because I've seen enough like movies about it to kind of understand how it goes down. I didn't realize that, you know, it was like so prevalent in other parts of the country. But I guess this dude, that was like his summer job when he was a teenager, is he would go chaperone at a camp, you know, and like entertain the kids, tell them ghost stories, that type of thing. And this particular year, him and some other of the counselors decided that they wanted to take the ghost stories that they tell to the next level. So they decided that they were going to go a little bit early, plant stuff around the camp for people to find, and make up this big elaborate story about how there used to be a mental asylum in the woods nearby that closed down, but when they closed down, they didn't send anyone there to a different hospital. They just released them into the woods. I know, obviously, that's very unrealistic. I don't know if they'd really do that. But, you know, when you're just trying to scare people, it's a pretty good story time, pretty classic as far as urban legends are concerned. And in order to make this even more feasible, some of the things that they went and did early for people to find is they walked about a mile into the woods to this clearing that was pretty large, and they decided that was where they were going to tell people the hospital was. And they had gone to a flea market and bought some old like medical equipment and just kind of started half burying it in the ground. And as I said, it was used at a flea market, so you know, it's not the best quality anyways, so it really looks like a medical facility used to be there. And then they had gotten these fake skeletons and went and buried them in a few places that they knew, so that way they could unbury them and be like, these are the bodies of the people that were released. They really went all in to make sure this would be like the scariest story possibly imaginable. Anyways, the first day where like people are there finally comes, and that night they have this big campfire, and while they're gathered around it, all of the camp counselors, which are all in on the joke, are talking, and one of them is like, do you guys want to hear a ghost story? And all the kids are like, yeah. And he goes, well, a long time ago, and to make it more believable, the other counselors like stop him, and they're like, no, not that one, it's too scary. And obviously when they do that, all these kids are like, no, we can handle it. Like, tell us the story. And all the counselors are like, no, we can't. Maybe if you guys prove to us you're pretty mature through like a couple days of camp, but I don't want to do it on the first night. It's way too scary. No one's going to be able to sleep. And of course, that makes the kids at the camp go crazy. They're like begging to know. And obviously, it seems like it's got to be a pretty scary story or something real if they won't tell you it. You know, like if it was a fake ghost story, they'd be all for it. So a lot of the kids, by default, start thinking that whatever story they're not telling them is going to be real. No matter how far-fetched it is, no matter how, you know, little evidence there is, they just are like starting to think that whatever story's going on is bigger than what meets the eye. So whatever, they don't tell anyone that first night, they just build up a bunch of suspense. And the next day, sure enough, the kids are bugging the crap out of the camp counselors. Can you tell us the story? Can you tell us the ghost story? Can you tell us the story? Can you tell us the story? And they finally decide that like, all right, that night they'll tell you, but you know, if you guys get scared and don't want to be at the camp anymore after the story, that's your fault. You can't leave. And all the kids think that they're about to be told some FBI level secret information. You know, they think they're about to get the keys to the kingdom and go wild. They'll be able to overthrow governments with this information. Finally, the night comes, they get the fire going, and a couple kids, like 10 of them, just decide they don't want to know the scary story. They would rather spend the rest of camp in this bliss that the woods is incredible and there's nothing scary out there, so they leave. But the rest of the camp is there, and they're like, all right, once we tell you the story, you're never going to see the camp the same way again. Are you sure? And all the kids are like, yeah. And sure enough, they start telling the story of how, you know, this camp wasn't always here. It was built in the 70s, but before that, from the middle of the 1800s up until the 1950s, there was a mental asylum a mile that way, and they point into the woods. And they're like, This mental asylum held the worst of the mental patients you could think of at the time. The worst criminals in the state were sent here. I mean, you name the crime, they did their time there. You know, kind of a mental hospital slash prison type of thing. That's why it was in the middle of the woods, so if anyone escaped, it wasn't a threat. Blah, 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 blah. They do a really good job selling the story. It's not like it's really hard to tell scary stories to people that probably, you know, still believe that deodorant covers up for a shower. Not all of them, some of them, though. Like, you can get them to believe some pretty crazy ghost stories. That being said, a couple of the kids are like, there's no way this is true. We would have heard about it. Nothing popped up on Google when we looked up camp blah, blah, blah ghosts. You guys are lying. And sure enough, this is why they had come early to plant evidence. They tell the kids, they're like, fine, if you don't believe us, go a mile that way. You'll come upon a clearing. The clearing is where the hospital was. So many bad things happened at the hospital that when they closed it, they just decided to raise the building and destroyed it. But you can still find medical equipment if you look hard enough. And a couple of the brave kids that didn't believe the story are like, yeah, sure, whatever. Tomorrow we're going to go. Like, tomorrow we're going to go check. Most of the kids, though, just believe it because of how they framed it that first night. And they're scared crapless, dude. All night, kids are like talking to the counselors. You don't think there's anyone left in the woods, right? Because part of the ending of the story they talked about is how it's possible that a few of the escaped people had like been reproducing in the woods, and now there's these mental patient ex-criminals, ex-whole like, you know, wild kid raised by wolves scenario going on wandering around the place. So all night they're getting asked, there's none of those really, right? And the camp counselors are playing along with it. I don't know. You know, I've never seen any personally, but like I'm always a little bit careful. I wouldn't leave the door unlocked, just scaring them. And if you thought they were scared now, it gets worse. So the next day, that little expedition of kids decides that they're going to go investigate. We're going to go a mile into the woods and see if they're telling the truth about medical equipment. Well, of course, they knew that they were going to find some stuff because they had put it there, but they're like, guys, please don't go, trying to convince them not to go. It's too dangerous. It's too scary. Which, of course, only makes them want to go more, and they set off this group of kids to prove that the counselors are messing with them and there's nothing out there. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. If you take a look at your screen now, you'll see an Xbox gift card. For those of you that don't know, I give away a gift card in every single video I've ever posted here on the channel to make sure that y'all get rewarded for having on notifications and subscribing. So if you haven't already subscribed, turn on those notifications. If you do already, you're a G. Thank you. I'll shut up. Enjoy. Anyways, about an hour later, they come back absolutely horrified, dude. They have this broken wheelchair that they had put in the middle of the woods to scare them, and they're like, oh my god, there was actually a hospital. They weren't kidding. There's gonna be the wild children that have been raised by wolves are gonna be running around attacking us. Oh my god. And like, they are horrified. And obviously that's the entire point, was to make them scared, but it scares some of them so bad that they start being like, I need to talk to my parents. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I need to leave. And obviously the counselors were in charge, but there were like adults that were in charge above them that weren't necessarily aware of what was going on. And the kids start going to them and being like, I want to go home. I want to call my mom. I'm not sleeping in these woods. And they start explaining what's happening and what's been going on. So all the counselors get called in and the adults in charge of the camp are like, kids are wanting to go home now. They're saying that, you know, they don't feel safe, all these things. What is going on? What story are you guys talking about? Why are they finding wheelchairs in the woods? Like, what's going on? Well, sure enough, dude, they try to hold out at first. They're like, nothing. Kids are just being kids. We told them a ghost story. And they're like, listen, I've ran this camp for a long time. I've seen kids that are afraid of ghosts. These kids genuinely seem like they're afraid for their lives. They seem like they are genuinely thinking that any night someone's going to burst into the cabin and game end them. What did you guys do? And finally, the counselors relent, and they're like, all right, well, we wanted to tell the best ghost story imaginable, right? So we came early, and we planted a bunch of stuff that would make it look like there was a haunted hospital in the middle of the woods where there's this clearing, and we might have told the kids that there was a ghost story we weren't allowed to tell them because it would scare them so bad they'd want to leave. And then we told them the day after. And when they asked for evidence, we told them to go to mile that way, but don't go because it's really dangerous. And of course they went, and now they actually believe that there was a haunted hospital a mile away and that there's potential wild people that are going to eat them. And obviously at that point, the grown-ups in charge of the camp are not too happy. There were so many counselors involved, they couldn't fire everybody, but it was made abundantly clear that they would not be back the next year. Not be knack the back year, or whatever I was about to say also would have worked. But dude, they made them like that night have this big thing around the fire and explain to all the kids that the story had been completely made up and that they had to have planted all the evidence. But yeah, for a little bit, it was literally chaos at the camp. Like, apparently, so many kids were crying and wanting to go home that they had gone to like the owner of the camp's cabin out in front of it and started chanting, "Send us home." Like, they were literally having a little rebellion, bro. Any longer, they would have gone to the paintball section, taken up arms, and like literally had a mini revolution. I will say, your ghost story is incredibly good, though, if it makes people have a revolution. Like, I've been telling stories for a long time. I don't think I've ever, like, caused a political uprising at a summer camp. If I have, I'm not sure how to feel about it. On one hand, I don't like political instability. On the other hand, I would be pretty damn proud of myself for somehow inciting a revolution. Seriously, though, the craftiness of the ghost story was appreciated, but not when money's on the line, dude. Like, the camp's about to lose all its money. The kids are all gonna go home. Parents are demanding refunds. They're like, you better get out there and tell those kids it's fake. The worst part is a couple of the kids just didn't believe that it was fake and were convinced that now they were saying it was fake to cover up the fact that they told anyone. So they didn't go home, but they just spent the rest of their summer camp horrified that, like, oh, anytime now the crazy people in the woods are gonna come eat me. Like, they just never got over that fear. And that sucks for those kids, dude, because, you know, even after it's revealed to be a prank, they're just like, yeah, I'm still not going to risk it. And I can't really blame them for that. Imagine you were one of the kids that went to the clearing and found old medical equipment. And you're freaking out, and they're like, no, we were kidding. You're like, all right, well, then who put the wheelchair there? We did. Yeah, sure you did. It was the crazy people that they left in the woods. I feel like crazier things have happened too. Like, on an overall basis of history, people have definitely done crazier things than just leave a mental hospital and hope for the best. But yeah, anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comments section down below what you thought, and of course, subscribe and turn on those notifications. I've seen the comments saying, we want longer story times. They're coming in October, I promise you. I'm getting stuff organized, all right? I'm trying to get Scrubby back alive. It's taking some time. But seriously, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you want to help me out, a link to the intro song can be found down below, along with a link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, and a link to the coolest merch to ever exist. And other than that, using code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout is a great way to get a discount on G Fuel and get yourself some great energy drinks. So be sure to do that too. On that note, though, guys, that's everything. Hopefully you enjoyed. Don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And hopefully I will see each and every one of you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace.